Beautiful buildings tend to last longer, and so do beautiful paintings and books and sculptures and movies. I'm going to get into why that is the case and what that means. Now, it may seem self-evident, of course, beautiful things last a long time. People love beautiful things. Any man who's found himself instantly captivated by the sight of a beautiful woman can tell you beauty is a law unto its own. And in fact, the beautiful woman is a fitting example because I'm going to make the case that the discovery of beauty as a value in nature actually constitutes the essence of civilization. To show you why, I want to take you back to 1886. A cattle baron named Jesse Driskill builds the now famed Driskill Hotel in Austin. This hotel was designed to emulate the finest hotels in New York City and Chicago, and quickly became the meeting ground for politicians, celebrities, and the wealthy socialites of Austin, Texas. The U.S. President Lyndon Johnson meets his wife, Lady Bird, there for their first date. Despite the Driskill's social significance, historical clout, and opulence, it faced closure multiple times during the Great Depression, and ended up being saved by activists and other community leaders who wanted to preserve it. It now stands as a functioning hotel and historical landmark, as well as the epicenter of many ghost stories. What the story of the Driskill Hotel shows us is a little-known secret in urban planning, which is that most of the buildings that are old are also really beautiful, but they're not beautiful because they are old. They are old because they are beautiful. What do I mean by this? Well, there's a common complaint on the internet that goes something like, why don't we build things like X anymore? Why don't we make things like Y anymore? That is, why do the things that we have now, why are they less beautiful than the things that came before? And while there's a certain grain of truth in this, that the craftsmanship and material construction that was representative of eras past in many industries, as well as the advent of industrial automation, means that the quality in general of a lot of goods has gone down. The sheer proliferation of new goods by virtue of the lower cost of making these materials means that most of the things that we see are not that good, but they're also not that valuable. And in fact, most of the things that existed in the past weren't that good or that valuable either. That's why we no longer see them. You see, the survivorship bias of old buildings points to the survivorship bias of all things, which is that the things that are not beautiful, that are not very good, are not preserved, generally speaking. We get rid of old buildings because old buildings are not that beautiful. It's not that all of the old buildings in the past were so amazing. Now, Alex, what does any of this have to do with civilization? Well, I told you that I would talk about discovery of beauty as a value, and that might seem strange, right? Beauty is, of course, a value. It's one of the three transcendental values, which are truth, beauty, and goodness. And what does it mean when I say that this constitutes the essence of civilization? Well, let's go back to the beginning of Western civilization. And in fact, let's go back to one of the earliest mentions of beauty or analyses of beauty, which is in Plato's Symposium. In my recent discussion with classicist Alex Petkas, he briefly brought up a passage of the Symposium known as the Ladder of Love. The Ladder of Love is a passage which describes the discovery of beauty, or really the recognition of beauty, which comes about first as the recognition of beautiful bodies. That is, we see the beautiful other, let's say my beloved, my crush, as a beautiful physical being first. And then through our love for their physical beauty, through our affection of the beautiful form in nature, we get deeper and more abstract in terms of our recognition of beauty. Maybe you recognize someone's beautiful body, and that leads you to recognizing their beautiful mind. And that leads you to recognizing a beautiful relationship or a beautiful set of values. And then you start to see from that the proliferation or the recognition of beauty in more and more abstract and distant things. You begin to see beautiful relationships in artifacts and beautiful relationships in ideas. And eventually, of course, you see the beauty of knowledge, which is, of course, the essence of all philosophy, the recognition of the beauty of knowledge or the love of knowledge. Now, I pointed earlier to the transcendental values, that is, the true, the beautiful, and the good. And that's because beauty is recognized as having some sort of association or affiliation with the good and with the true. That is, true is to false, as good is to bad, as beautiful is to ugly. We see all of these things as somehow bunched together, as often co-occurring, right, or related ideas. As I said before, beauty is a law unto itself. That is, it's self-justifying. And in fact, each of these things are self-justifying. You don't need to justify what is true. You don't need to justify what is good, and you don't need to justify what is beautiful. They are all recognized in some sense as sharing in what is good or the notion of the good, and as not needing a justification outside of themselves. Now, what does all this have to do with civilization? Well, for anything to last, a civilization, an idea, or structure, or even a love, it has to be worth having. That is, it has to be worth saving, worth reinvigorating. There has to be a justification for it beyond mere utility, beyond mere economic gain. And the reason is that if something only has justification for its economic utility, then the moment it becomes inconvenient for you to maintain it, to save it, to fight for it, you're going to end up throwing it away. Remember the story of the Driskill. It nearly closed several times, but was continued to be saved, not because it was economically viable in that moment to do so, but because it was beautiful, and this recognition of its beauty made it worth saving. No one needs to argue about what's beautiful, or why the beautiful is preferable to the ugly, or why the beautiful is worth having as opposed to anything else. So as with buildings, so with people, so with relationships, artifacts, buildings, cities, ideas, and even civilizations. If you want something to last, make it beautiful. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this talk, you can check out other videos on my channel where I go into how technology changes our relationship to power, each other, and ourselves. You can also check out my interview with classicist Alex Petcast, where we go deep into why he built a social media empire around Plutarch's parallel lives. And if you want something a little bit more spicy, you can check out my interview with Stephen Pimentel, where we do a thorough review of the book Selective Breeding and the Birth of Philosophy, which will point you towards some more ideas around the origin of beauty in the natural world and how it comes about and its relationship to ancient philosophy. This is Alex Mershak with Hacking State. Thank you for watching.